What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 21 of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Champs and the new coaches rising. Yeah, some champs. We had a good weekend. That's all I have to say. It's a good weekend to be up here in Connecticut. The parade is tomorrow. We are probably not going to go, but we are supporting them from afar. It was a very, very, very fun weekend supporting our Yukon Huskies. Lots of Yukon Huskies, Big Red chant. So it was very fun. Very fun. I
Not
think I'm still recovering a little bit from it.
not pulling up the stores tomorrow.
No, the parade is up in Hartford.
Ah,
So maybe we'll end up going later. We haven't decided, but we got a lot of wedding stuff we have to do this weekend. So
ah.
because the next couple weeks they start rolling really fast. We have Dan's bachelor party, then my bridal shower, then our friend's wedding. Just it's never ending.
Checks over
Yeah,
money.
for real, for real.
uh, yeah, man. But going along
How
with
are
that
you?
money.
How was your weekend, WrestleMania? I know we're
Oh,
going to talk about it a little later in the show, but
oh
give us a
my
little
goodness,
preview.
my goodness. Well, you can kind of hear it. I mean, I got my voice back, but I was very hoarse, very tired. Doing that from Friday to Monday. It was a very epic weekend.
Yeah,
Got
I
to check
bet.
out some. Yeah, got to check out some basketball for those of you that were looking for those articles because I know the Sixers played and those articles didn't come up. That's why. If you didn't watch the previous episode, WrestleMania being in Philadelphia took precedence over Joel Embiid versus Wembayama Part Two, which didn't wind up
Where
happening.
was uh where was WrestleMania? Was it at the
Yeah, it was,
stadium?
it was at the link. Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, it
Oh, that's
was.
why everybody was cold because it was outside. I didn't even think of
Yeah,
that.
it was great. Saturday was a little cold for those of people who are non-Philadelphians, and we got real cold. As people that know that come up here, the weather is deceiving, especially once the sun goes down. I mean, you could say that about all parts of the Northeast,
Yeah.
but like the it was a great weekend. We will get into that later. Great weekend. Got to see the South Carolina game. That was the only basketball I watched. Missed your game, but we kind of called that anyway. Both championship games that whoever won between Iowa and UConn wouldn't beat South Carolina, and whoever won between Purdue and whoever they played wouldn't beat UConn, and it turned out exactly like we said. So, you know, obviously one was more of a blowout than the other. I mean,
Yeah.
you would know better than me. It sounds like the Purdue UConn game was never close. From
No, it
start.
got to like 3 points a couple times, but it never felt. There was a few times, we'll talk about it later, when Edie kind of got going, but then he just got gassed. Like airballed a free throw, like just gassed. And you kind of knew it was over from there.
Okay. But yeah, so we got that coming up. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you check out our socials here. Morgan is at M India Miller, which is below. I'm at Kylan W Watson. You will get your football, basketball, wrestling, hot takes. We got a lot going on
Got
this
it
week.
all.
We got it all, man. This past weekend had it all. We thank you, but we try to give you. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson, where we try to give you your sports news in an hour plus, sometimes 2 hours like last week.
Yeah,
But
today
that's
we'll try
why.
and keep it. We'll try and keep it a little shorter today. We had a lot to talk about last week. There's not as not that there's not as much, but I feel like some of the topics aren't as in depth. They're kind of
Yeah, we'll see though, because we both when we get to talking, we're broadcasters. When we get to talking, it's a wrap. So we'll see. But you want to lead into this one?
Yeah. So some crazy news came out yesterday. Kind of polarizing, weird. No one really knows how to feel news. So OJ Simpson died of cancer yesterday after a few weeks ago posting a video saying that his health was good. He was all fine. They said he was surrounded by friends and family when he passed. And it has been a really weird covering of this for the last 24 hours. And I think the main thing is, yes, OJ Simpson was a all-time football player, one of the best college football players that ever existed. Hall Hall of Fame caliber NFL football player, but was tried and not convicted of murdering his ex-wife and her boyfriend or lover, and then lost in a civil suit to her family.
Both of their families, yeah,
both their families owed money, and then went to jail for 8 years for stealing.
Trying to steal back his merchandise from a hotel. Basically trying to pull off a heist in the worst place you can try to pull off a heist in, Las Vegas.
Yeah,
which we're
like,
going to.
And you know, a lot of people say that he stole that so he could subconsciously go to jail and serve time for her murder. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those really weird, bizarre cases. It is obviously iconic. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know how to feel. It's this really weird time on the internet where people can kind of say whatever they want and nobody's kind of challenging them on it. You can make jokes. You can say, I'm glad he's dead, or separate the art from the artist. Like, there's just all this stuff that people are saying, and like everyone's just kind of like, sure, whatever people feel. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think for me, right, you know, we were all young when this happened. Some of us weren't even alive yet. You know, I think I was like 3 or 4 during the white Bronco chase or whatever it was. I don't know how old you were, Morgan. Were you
What was it? 90? Was it 95?
Yeah, that was the trial, but yeah.
I was not born yet.
Yeah.
I think I was in my mom's stomach when it was happening.
Yeah, so like, you know, this happened 94, 95. So for a lot of people in that millennial Gen Z range, unless you were like an elder millennial, you weren't born during this time. So I think that's what's adding to it, right? And for those of us that were around, we were all toddlers. So like we really didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Obviously there was OJ is very much a controversial figure. You know, his trial came up 2-3 years after the Rodney King stuff. So there was a lot of racial tension that most people were oblivious to if you weren't around in 92, or you were like a baby like I was during this time. Right. So like, you know, you didn't know, and that OJ Simpson trial really brought it out. I mean, I won't speak for every black person in America, but I think that most of us understand that, like, he clearly, I mean, you know, who knows? Only the investigators know. But I think most people clearly think he did it. Obviously, in the eyes of the law, he didn't do it. You know, but you know, I think that a lot of that is, you know, it just proved the racial divisions that most people believe, and is very true, is in this country. 2 different forms of justice. Most people didn't like the fact that he was a rich football player and was able to get the best lawyer. You know, if the glove don't fit, you have to acquit. Blah 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 blah, and that wound up happening. And obviously, there was a lot of like, you know, you have somebody, I believe his name is Furman, who is currently a Fox News contributor, who was on the witness stand. Turned out he was very racist. His statements came up, and that was another reason why they couldn't find him guilty. So there's a lot going on here, mostly with California's racial divisions, that became a perfect storm that allowed this man to get acquitted, right? And, you know, I think a lot of people never let that go, right? You have people like Caitlyn Jenner now who should shut her mouth, because she's, you know, the difference between those two is one of them is actually a convicted murderer, and one is somebody who we think murdered somebody, but we have no proof of, right? So like, you know, it is a time. He's a very controversial figure, but you know, you can't mention OJ without that trial. Some people would say, you know, OJ Simpson is famous for saying, I'm not black, I'm OJ. You know, Jay-Z made a famous song about that too, like about the story of OJ. And you know, that's what it turned out to be, man. He was, you know, he was rich enough that it transcended everything. So, you know, except death. But you know, he died of prostate cancer. Very unfortunate, but you know, it's, you know, that's OJ, right? Ultimate showman. Obviously, he was way sicker than anybody thought. And you know, it's unfortunate that he's no longer with us, or you know, I know some people say fortunate, but you know, again, he was acquitted in the eyes of the law. Whatever any of us may think, those of us who were around for it, and those of us who are too young to remember it, justice is, like we say, the eyes of the law. He was acquitted. He did go to jail. A lot of people would say that like for something minor, trying to rob a hotel for his merchandise, but he did go to jail. So some people did live long enough to see that happen. And I just think that he was a very, I wasn't alive for most of his heyday. Didn't live in that '80s time. But it is what it is at this point. And I guess the best thing you can say about OJ is he showed the best and worst of us, right? And the worst of this country, and stuff that we're still dealing with to this day. It's kind of crazy, but he's not here anymore. So I think that's what I can say on that one.
Yeah, I think that covers it pretty well.
Yeah. Um, so the other one, according to ESPN, former NBA shooting guard and former top 2 pick Ben McLemore has been arrested on Tuesday by U.S. Marshals for a sexual assault that is alleged to have happened in 2021. So, Morgan, what's your reaction? I'm sorry, I'll start this one. What's the reaction to this for me? It's crazy. Like I was saying to Morgan off air, last week it was dumb football players. This week it's dumb basketball players. So it is a crazy time right now for Ben McLemore, who hasn't played in the NBA since I believe 2021 anyway, which is when this was alleged to have happened. And it's very unfortunate for the woman, obviously. It's always when sexual assaults happen. It's always crazy because it is one of those things where obviously they will do. There's clearly some evidence, or he wouldn't have been arrested. But essentially it all boils down, including with evidence, to a he said, she said. I hate saying it like that because I feel like it diminishes it, but that's essentially what it becomes in the court of public opinion, and sometimes in these court cases. But he did get arrested, so there must be some evidence somewhere that this happened. So, hopefully, if he did do it, he will be held to account. And hopefully, this woman can sleep easier now that he is off the streets. It's very unfortunate what people do with power and privilege. We have not really gotten into the Diddy thing, but he's a prime example of this. Ben McLemore's a little bit of a lesser example of this right now, since he's actually seems like facing the consequences of his actions. So I think that's really all I want to say to this. If he did it, he should face the consequences of his actions. And he's not in the NBA currently, and it's very unfortunate for this woman that this happened to her. And I hope that she finds the justice that she is seeking.
Yeah, it's seemingly like every few weeks or every month or so we're getting another one of these stories, and it's heartbreaking. It's so sad. You hear about the kid from Illinois who was allowed to play in the tournament and has his trial in May. And I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's power. That's what people, it's a power. It's a, do you know who I am? And it is absolutely heartbreaking, but I think it's really empowering that a lot of these women are not afraid to speak up. And I hope that as many of these stories come out, more women feel like if they are put in this kind of situation, they can speak up, speak out. And hopefully we can, if enough justice is served, people will think a little bit harder before doing some of these horrible things.
Amen. Yeah. So you want to lead into this next one again? Like I said, to lead into this, yesterday, last week. If you didn't watch last week's episode, it was a good one between with us and our returning guest Josh Leeper. But last week was about stupid football players. This week is about stupid basketball players. So I'll let you lead into this next one.
Yeah. So there has been a lot of stuff in the news, I guess, about at least in the NCAA level, wanting to ban prop bets Toronto Raptors guard Jontay Porter is facing possible banishment, legal actions for prop bet fixing, meaning he's expected to score like Jontay Porter is going to score exactly 10 points tonight, something like that, right? He makes sure he gets his 10 points and then fakes an injury and has to go out of the game. Or trying to think of other prop bets. Like over under on
like 5
fouls,
rebounds,
stuff like that, and going out of his way to make sure that these happen and then stopping. And you know, the thing about prop bets is that it's hard to tell sometimes because prop bets are an individual thing a lot of the time, and then other times they're a team thing. And I don't know, you're making so much money. You are playing at the highest level of your sport. I don't understand why people are needing to fix bets. And again, we were talking about this a little bit off air, but who is betting on these? Is him betting on himself? Because that's even worse.
Yeah. I think like I said this off air, right? Like football, you've seen this with Calvin Ridley, a couple of the Lions players. Obviously, football is a little bit more lenient on this than the other 3 major sports, right? Because like obviously in baseball, you had Pete Rose and the Black Sox and other stuff that was going on. In football, you had the not football. In college basketball, for those of us that weren't alive, but we have parents that are boomers, you'll probably have heard the UNLV thing about the basketball fixing and stuff like that. So this happens a lot in the other sports, and they're very not lenient on it. Pete Rose, one of the reasons it took him so long to get into the Hall of Fame was because of this, right? And like there were other things that made it so he couldn't do it. And so here in basketball, so for those of you that don't know what's going on, Commissioner Adam Silver had an interview a couple of days ago where he said that Jontay Porter will be facing possible banishment if they find out that this, obviously it is true, but like if they find out that like he was actually like fixing this himself. And it seems like he was, just based on the reporting, like, and these are just people like us. Who just looked at this and said, oh, yeah, there were multiple games, Raptors games where, he asked out or like he got out of the games and he made sure his points just hit. I think they were talking about these were games that happened in December and January. So he made sure his props hit, and then he was faking sickness, faked a stomach bug, faked like a headache or a concussion to get out of games. And I'm just like, bro, why are you doing this in a league that literally banned a ref for life for betting on games that he had nothing to do with, right? And so that the NBA is the most progressive one of the 4 sports. They're not going to have anything to do with anybody fixing this stuff. I mean, it's enough that people think that the playoffs are fixed anyway, right? So like they don't want anything that makes it look like it is fixed, right? And so like that's why I said like this bull is kind of dumb, because why would you do this? And you're in a league that frowns upon this, right? And I just really can't see him not getting banned if this turns out to be true, because Carmelo Anthony said that that the NBA has a lot of former criminal justice people, former FBI agents, former profilers, and everything else who make sure that they know anything and everything that goes on with their players. So you can bet your behind that Adam Silver is not out here publicly saying, hey, he's going to face possible banishment without knowing that, like putting that out there without having an inkling that that's what's going on here, right? Like Adam Silver doesn't put stuff out there lightly, right? So, I just think that, this man is about to face banishment, and, I hope he doesn't, but if he did what they're saying he did, then yeah, he needs to face banishment. But, follow that up. Is he the first of many athletes that may face possible banishment from their sport for sports betting? Yeah, this is kind of a slippery slope. Like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the NBA getting more into bid with FanDuel and the other betting partners that they have that this was a problem. Morgan and I brought this up a few weeks ago before we even knew about Jontay Porter, that this would be a problem that the NBA would face because they're the first league that's really leaning into this, right? And now here it is, right? A couple of weeks later, I think he will be the first of many. Like, we're already seeing it in football. Calvin Ridley just got back from that. Jameson Williams just got back from that for the Lions. Like, we're already seeing it. But I think that as long as it's not egregious, right? As long as it's not egregious, like what is going on with Jontay Porter, I think most people won't face banishment. But I think like it seems that I don't bet, but it seems from people that I know that bet that it is very addicting. And obviously, like we said with Ben McLemore, like when you have the power and you have the money, you feel like you're invincible, right? And so I think that's what's going on. That these athletes, they're like, oh, as long as I'm not betting on my team, right? But this is what it is when you represent these powerful sports. They have FBI agents and CIA agents or whatever else they have on retainer who can find out what you're doing and when you're doing it. And as long as you're not stupid,
Yeah.
like some people, I think you won't face banishment. But I definitely think these leagues are in a can't win situation because you're in bed with these sports betting companies, and then you're banning athletes for doing some extreme stuff. Or basically, if what Jontay Porter's accused of is true, like basically fixing games, like making sure that his bets hit so he can get he can or whoever him or his friends can cash in on
Yeah.
his game check and his betting check. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry about the chaos that was happening here. There was a
No.
bumblebee in the house, and Baxter, my dog, was trying to eat it. So I was like, Dan, you have to come get this bumblebee, or else Baxter's going to eat the bumblebee. And so Dan got the bumblebee. It's out of the house. Thank you, Kylan, for taking the last couple minutes while, life happened in here. And now Baxter's upset because his bumblebee friend is gone. But
no problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think the best thing that you said was that these leagues are in a lose-lose situation. They can't win either way. No matter what they do, people are going to be pissed at them. And I think that's what makes it really hard right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I just got a news blast from CBS Sports. I was like, oh no, what just broke? Just saying that Tiger is teeing off.
Yes, the Masters. For those of you that don't know, this is Masters weekend.
Masters week. It's the best week.
For those of you that are golf fans, yes, it's the week after everything ends in college basketball. So yeah, to our next one. If you have nothing else to add on the episode.
This is, I mean, this is a huge deal. Like 4 years, $135 million for Jrue Holiday to stay in Boston that's a lot of money.
It is. Yeah, it's and this is as he's aging. I am of that boy Jrue. He came up here in Philadelphia. The reason he got on the Milwaukee Bucks and ended up in New Orleans is because the Sixers traded him to the and now he's in Boston. I think he's a great player. I think this might be a little bit too much money for him, especially in his. Hang on. Well, I check out how old he is. I believe he's in his early 30s, but let me check that. Yes, 33. So, oh wow, June 12, 1990. 33. So yeah, so about to turn in 2 more months, literally, because it's April 12th. In 2 more months, he's literally about to turn 34. So like, I think that might be a little too much money for somebody who's about to be 37. But it does give his wife, former big time soccer player Lauren Holiday, did come out and she was very pissed. We talked about this on the show before.
Yeah, she didn't want to move. Didn't like the way that the trades were happening.
Yeah, she was not happy about the way that they had to uproot their lives because for those of you that don't know, I believe she has some very rare form of something that makes it so like it's a little bit upsetting for her to move because of health reasons, and obviously they have kids and everything else. For those that don't know, they met in UCLA. And they've been together since whenever they started in UCLA. And so like, she's very vocal about the fact that she did not like that, because they've been married a long time, been together since college. Obviously, when you're together that long, you don't really, the individuality kind of gets lost. I'm not college sweethearts or anybody, but that's kind of what happens. um, and and
I
Damien,
am. Yes. Yeah. You do. I mean, you do. You grow up together, and
yeah,
that's it's like Dan and I started dating when we were 19. Like we,
right,
you're different people. You grow as humans, and you kind of form into a unit. You don't really know how your adult lives have been built together,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
really exciting. But it makes it
yeah,
you're more reliant on each other for
yeah.
sure.
And then you add millions of dollars for both of them. Obviously, she's not playing. She's retired from soccer, but she's not really doing that anymore. So it's kind of like, obviously, she has young kids, or they have young kids together. And obviously, like she said, like he had to get to Boston really, really fast. Now, fortunately for both of them, he got traded in the summer, so it was probably a little bit less hard on them. But I guess she really didn't like that he had to fly over there, start training, find a house for them, be in Boston probably for a few months to essentially check out the situation instead of being in Milwaukee. And you could see why she would like that. He won a chip there. It was probably very comfortable there. I mean, I don't really know because I've never been to either place. The difference, I'm assuming that there's a huge difference, obviously, between Milwaukee and LA, but with Milwaukee being a little bit of a smaller city than LA. But I'm sorry, when they went from New Orleans to Milwaukee, Milwaukee to Boston. And so like really I guess Boston outside of being at UCLA is the biggest city that they've been in. And so well, here in Philly too. But I just am very happy for him. I hope it works out. I hope that they can get another chip. I'm gonna put my Sixers hat to the side, fan hat to the side, and just say I'm very happy for that boy Drew that he has a ring and that Lauren and his kids and everybody else can stay in Boston for as long as they please. And that we don't have to hear her being upset about it. And like Morgan said, it is very hard on the families. Damian Lillard is talking about how since he's in Milwaukee, he came over from the trade, that he's very lonely because his wife and his kids are in Cali, right? So like, it's very hard for people, because I know a lot of people are like athletes or dogs, but it's very hard for these people who have been married a long time, have kids and stuff, like both him and Damian Lillard, who are like, I don't know what to do. I don't have my college or high school sweetheart that my kids would be. So like, what am I going to do? Like I have millions of dollars, and kind of talks about what's the old saying: you can have as much money in the world, but you have nobody to share it with. It's kind of a lonely experience. And both of them are going. Well, Damian Lillard is going through that, and now Drew Holiday doesn't have to go through that anymore because I know Lauren is probably like, why do they keep trading you? He's like, I don't know. There's no trade clauses in basketball. Maybe I should get one. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm happy for them, and that's good for them.
Yeah.
You got anything to say on that one?
No, I'm happy. I'm happy. That seems like end game for them. Um, you know, 38 seems like a nice age to retire from basketball. And if they decide they want to stay in Boston, they can. And then if they don't, they can decide where they want to be together, which is something that they haven't had the privilege of doing since being at UCLA.
Right. Right. Cool. All right. So, do we think if the Celtics are able to lock up Porzingis and Tatum, that they will be able to contend for years to come? I honestly think there's somebody in Boston who saw this podcast a few weeks ago where I was saying they were not going to be able to do this, and they're trying to make, we're going to prove you wrong. I still don't think
You're
they
gonna
will be
end
able
up
to
on
lock.
you're gonna end up on what is it, freezing cold takes or bad
Probably,
announcing or whatever it is.
probably. That would be great for the notoriety of myself in this podcast if that does happen. But I am of the mindset, just because logically I don't think you're going to be able to combine this stuff unless Porzingis takes a pay cut. I don't think you'll be able to like also sign Jason Tatum for
But that's
5
not the
years.
question. The question is if they're able to. So pretend land where they're able to. Are they going to be good forever? Yeah, they will. They will be good for a very, very long time if they're able to make this happen. You're right. It's kind of a fantasy land if they can, but yes, if this does happen, they will be very scary for a long period of time.
I got you, Drake. Like the subtle shot there. I make the questions for those that don't know. So that's a subtle shot at me. But yes, in fantasy pretend land, when I make this question, could they contend? Yes, they will contend for years to come, forever, or at least until Jason Tatum gets sick of it. You know, they will be able to contend. But but the only reason I think this will become realistic, this is me taking a realism into it, is if Porzingis takes a pay cut. That's it. Like, obviously he's the oldest of this core. If he does like 2-year, 3-year, 35 mil a year, then that can happen. But in pretend land where this does happen, yes, they'll contend forever. My Sixers have no chance if they can lock these people up for a long term, I guess. But you know, I am of the mindset that the Celtics are a great team, and if they lock this core up, then like it'll be the Sixers and Celtics trying to beat each other for forever, like it's always been. Yay!
You sound so excited.
All right. So can anyone back to reality land? Can anyone stop the Celtics in the Eastern Conference? Morgan, I'm gonna let you go.
I mean, the thing that's so hard about basketball, professional basketball, is that they play series. And generally when you play a series, it just means that the best team is going to come out on top. It's really hard to beat the better team 3 out of 5 times, right? Yep. Or 5 out of 7. And that's why March Madness is so special, because they're one-off games. Anything can happen in a one-off game. It's very rare that like people sweep every series in the NCAA, or not the NCAA, the NBA playoffs, right? So I think it's going to be really hard. I think they are the better team. And that's what's scary, because I think that they are the better team. And so when you're playing games in a series, it's going to be really hard for somebody to beat them. I'm sorry, but
look, man, as the noted Boston hater who may end up on freezing cold takes one day when they re-sign Porzingis and Tatum and they're adding me, please do at Colin W. Watson, because I'll be quick to tell you, like I've told Celtics fans the last 3 years, that they weren't going far, and they proved me right. So I will tell you this, that I've said this before on this podcast, Morgan here is a witness, that the only 2 things that can beat the Celtics are themselves and the Philadelphia 76ers. That is it. So, you know, I think most Boston fans will say that their last few times that they've lost, you know, especially last year, was because they went 7 games or 5 or 6 games with their hated rival down here in Philadelphia. And both of those teams, they give each other their best shots. It takes them 7 games. It takes them 6 games. It's never a sweep, you know. Both of those teams take a lot out of each other, and then it leaves whoever wins right for the picking for the next game that they have. Just because, like, when a series goes 5, 6, 7 games, you really don't have enough time to recover to get ready for the next game. And usually these 2 teams, barring anything that changes, will probably meet in the second round, right? The Celtics and the Sixers. So the only real thing that can beat them are themselves and the Sixers. That's it. You know, and both of those teams need like everything perfect going their way to beat each other. So I think, like I've said before, the Eastern Conference Final before the Eastern Conference Final will, if these 2 meet, will be the Sixers and Celtics, because whoever wins that will more than likely go to the finals, barring getting eliminated by a hot play-in team like what happened to the Celtics against the Heat, right? And, you know, I am of the mindset that that's the only 2 things that can beat the Celtics, whether they lock up their core or not, is themselves and the Sixers.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, no offense to your beloved Sixers. I don't see them beating the Celtics, but You know what? For the sake of this podcast, I would love to see me be proved wrong.
Look, man, you're not wrong. I have a friend of mine who tells me all the time that the Sixers haven't beat the Celtics in the playoff series since none of us were alive in 1981. I'm all like, well, shut up. They're gonna do it this year.
Yeah, you're like, well, who cares? It's happening this time.
Who cares? So and I'm like, so you're telling me they're due? That's what you're telling me. so like that's what I'm of the mindset. Yeah, they haven't beat the Celtics in anything in the playoff series since like the 80s. But the fact still remains that when both of those teams meet up, they give each other their best shot, and that's what happened last year. Because they won 7 games, they were right for the picking for Miami. So like I said, whenever the Sixers and the Celtics meet up, that is, for all intents and purposes, your Eastern Conference final. Because whoever wins that is more than likely going to the finals.
Yeah.
All right. So the thing that you want to talk about, speaking of New England basketball Kings, UConn goes back to back.
Huskies, UConn, Huskies, UConn, Huskies, UConn. Woo!
Yes. So
Woo!
she's definitely gone full native. For those of you that don't know, she lives in the state of Connecticut. She has gone full native.
Back to back. Back to back. Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was such a fun weekend. UConn is just so dominant. They can beat you anyway. They executed their game plan perfectly. Their game plan was let Edey get his shots up, but completely shut down everybody else. And that's exactly what they did. Edey scored like 37 and the rest of the team's like, it was bad. And they just tired him out. Edey had definitely never seen any person like Clingan before. He is obviously bigger than Clingan, and Clingan was trying not to get fouls, but he got exhausted. He airballed a free throw at one point. Like Edey was just exhausted by the end of the game. UConn completely wore them out. It was awesome. It was dominance from A to B for the last 2 years. They are just been the best team in college basketball. I'm going to miss a lot of these players. They are, it's sad. So next year is going to be different. 4 of our 5 starters are expected not to return, but we have a lot of really good underclassmen. They have some good recruits coming in. So we'll see. It was awesome. It was the best weekend ever. And I know we're going to talk, we can probably even go into this right now about them going back to back. If they can three-peat, there's been some chatter. Some of the current players are like, yeah, we're trying to get those guys to stay. We want to win 4 in a row. We want to do what Stewie did, which, yes, in men's college basketball would be very, very, very difficult. See, Baxter's rooting on UConn too. I mean, if they can keep Donovan Clingan and Steph Castle for 1 more year and somehow Cam Spencer can get another year of eligibility, I mean, they'll be really freaking good. So I'm happy for them. It's a good group of kids. I'm happy for UConn. I'm happy for the state of Connecticut. All good things.
Yeah, I think so for those who don't know, I missed this meeting because WrestleMania and Raw. But I am of the mindset, like I said last week, that the only thing that can beat UConn is UConn. And they did just enough to make sure that they didn't get beat. They kept the 3-point shot hot. Clingan did what he was supposed to do, being that defensive anchor and not really scoring much, but just doing what he needed to do and relying on, the offense to work. Dan Hurley found a way to get enough people to, stay around and get enough players out of the transfer portal and recruit that it worked out for him. So I'm very happy for UConn. I am a UConn fan, not as big as Morgan, but I am a UConn fan. So I do love seeing UConn on top, but not at the expense of Villanova, which didn't happen this year. So I don't have to worry about that. So
Villanova killed itself this year.
So I am of the mindset that if they do leave, that's why you have the transfer portal. We'll get to that later, but I am of the mindset that as long as Dan Hurley is there and he can recruit, then the UConn. I don't know if they can three-peat. I think that the transfer portal is a great equalizer, and there are other teams on the rise, even in the Big East. Like they'll have to contend with. I'm assuming an empowered Seton Hall, Villanova with a coach on the hot seat more than likely, a St. John's, a Creighton, who's probably going to be really upset that their shooters couldn't shoot. I am of the mindset that Marquette, didn't even mention Marquette, that that they have
lost Bullock. They'll be fine, man.
Yeah,
ripped in Jersey.
Yeah, that they have a lot to contend with even in their own conference. But if they do throw a three-peat, it would be interesting to see, because that hasn't happened on the men's side for UConn. So
iron sharpens iron, as they say.
I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to see if they can do it. But the thing that's really happy for UConn, because not only did they win a ring, but they got to keep their coach.
Oh, the stress.
Kentucky was calling, and Dan Hurley said, no. Or UConn said, no. Well, I don't know which one came first. I don't know if UConn, I don't know what I think happened here. This is just my conspiracy theory. I think Dan Hurley wanted, I don't think he wanted to go, but I think his agent put that out there, so that I think that very, very soon, probably by Monday morning,
he's going to have a crazy contract.
You will be hearing about a mega 10-year, $300 million contract, and everybody will be like, "Where did UConn get this money from? They're not a private school." And that'll be what happened, because I think Kentucky did come calling, but I think that the allure of Storrs, Connecticut, which is weird to say, made that happen, and the fact that he seems like a loyal guy. Morgan has interacted with him way more than I have, but it seems like he's a very loyal guy, and he's like the perfect dog kind of coach to be in the Northeast.
He's a Northeast guy. His wife is a Jersey girl. Andrea was like, I am not moving to, I don't know if you heard his quote. He was like, I can't afford a divorce right now. I just started making money. So, no, I was way more stressed than I should have been. Like sleepless nights almost about this. Dan was working late one night, and I'd already gone to bed, and I went into his office, and I was like, Dan, I can't sleep. And he's like, what's going on? I was like, I am so scared that Dan Hurley is going to leave. And he's like, you are a crazy person. Go to bed. He's not leaving. You'll be fine. Right. So yeah, no, I'm so happy he's staying. He's the perfect fit for UConn. I mean, UConn is the best right now. I mean, there's no 6 championships in 26 years is bonkers.
I never thought I'd see somebody who might actually contend with the coach that I grew up with at UConn, and you did too, Jim Calhoun. Yeah. This man might actually get, I thought that stadium would become Jim Calhoun Stadium, but maybe it'll become the Calhoun Hurley Stadium.
Yeah.
What is it called? The Fog right now? Yeah, that name's been changed.
It's called Gamble.
Gamble. Sorry. I got it confused with Kansas, but Gamble is going to be changing its name soon to the Hurley Calhoun Pavilion very soon. You
gotta get Gino in there too.
Oh, true, yeah. I don't know how that's going to work. They've had 3 really good coaches, and let's not forget Kevin Ollie, who also won a championship there. I mean, he won
it with another coach's team. Let's be real, but yes, he did technically win it.
Yeah, so we will see what happens, but I know a lot of UConn fans here in Philly and otherwise are very happy right now that they get to keep their coach. And like I said, expect that. I'm not like, I have no sources on this, but I think that the reason he's staying is there's going to be a $200 million mega deal being announced very, very
well-deserved payday. Well-deserved payday.
Yeah. So the question that Morgan previewed, is there a three-peat on the horizon? Let me say this, because I previewed it and you kind of said you believe it's going to happen. Let me be the Debbie Downer here and tell you why more than likely, even though I would love to see it, because it's never happened in our lifetime in men's college basketball for UConn, and I would love to see it. be the first UConn men's team to go back to back and do what Maya Moore and Stewie and them did. But let me tell you why I think it's not going to happen, as I previewed. You got to deal with an inspired Marquette who maybe tried to keep Shaka Smart in Milwaukee. An inspired Villanova team that will have their coach on the hot seat more than likely. Creighton, Seton Hall, like St. John's, like teams that Morgan went to bat for, and I don't know why she did. Seton Hall and St. John's,
Big East.
Nova, Creighton, Butler. There are teams on the rise, and the Big East is always a crapshoot. Hey, you might get a wild Georgetown comeback. We didn't see that a couple years ago when they won the championship. So when they won the Big East tournament, so you never know in the Big East. It's always wide open, but it is UConn's division, and I can totally see it if they can keep these players. But if they can't keep clinging, and what's the other guy that you're talking about?
Steph Castle, their freshman.
Okay, well, yeah, he'll probably stay. If they can't.
No, he's projected to be a lottery pick right now.
Oh, really? Okay. But if he doesn't stay, I think y'all have a good sixth man. The transfer portal, like I said, is the great equalizer here. So I think you guys will be fine. You will probably win the Big East regular season championship, and you'll probably win the tournament too. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm previewing our next segment. You've got Arkansas that looks like it's on the rise. You've got a wild Syracuse that may appear. That's my bias showing up, but a wild Syracuse that may appear, even though they're losing Judah Mintz to the draft.
Kyle Filipowski just announced he's going to the draft.
Look at that. So the Duke will be down. So you have that. Look, breaking news, guys, is what we do. So you'll have that. But I think a three-peat is going to be hard in men's basketball, but I wouldn't be surprised if UConn does it, because I've never seen a coach who beats you and then trash talks your fans on the way out. So I was like, is this dude from Philly? Because that's such Philly. That's some Philly energy right there.
That is some Philly energy for sure.
So I am very, very, very excited to see. If anybody can prove me wrong, it's Dan Hurley, and I will not be mad if the UConn media team uses this as a freezing cold take, because I am a UConn fan that would love to see it. But I think Marquette and Creighton specifically will have a lot to say about that one. So yeah. But teasing our next segment. Apparently in Kentucky, they are not all in this together. Calipari goes from Wildcat to Razorback. Oh my goodness. And that's the person on this podcast as you're doing the high school that we're all in this together dance. Oh man, I hope you millennials and Gen Zs appreciate that reference. I am of the mindset as the only person on this podcast with family in Arkansas who are Razorback fans, and because I want to be able to go back to Arkansas and see them, I'm very excited for the Razorbacks. They already had a good coach, but he's leaving for USC, and now they're getting an even better coach, and I expect all those Kentucky players, the DeJuan Blairs of the world and his son, to come over to Arkansas. Khalif Battle, who was a big time player for Arkansas, is already transferring, probably going to USC. So there's a point guard spot open for Blair. So I expect a lot of players that Arkansas would never get, because Musselman was not a one and done type of person, to come to Arkansas. And I definitely think, previewing our next question, that Arkansas now is the basketball powerhouse of the South. Sorry, Alabama, but that's Arkansas right now, because you get Calipari, you get all the 1 and 2 and done. So, I'm very excited for Arkansas. They're about to be more of a basketball powerhouse. I mean, this was already the case with Musselman there. So this is no offense to the Arkansas football program, but let's be real. Arkansas is more of a basketball and a gymnastics and softball school now than a football school. Sorry, not sorry, Arkansas football.
Yeah, I think this is a good move. I think that obviously Calipari was not happy in Kentucky at the end. I think they weren't happy with him. I'm intrigued to see how it's going to go. There's a lot of talent down there in, SEC territory. It's it's interesting. I mean, Nate Oates apparently was offered the job and didn't want to go. It says he's building something at Alabama, and
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
he got that Saban money that ain't going to Saban no more. That's
yeah.
what for those of you that don't know, I mean, I'm not saying that these coaches are liars, but let's be real. He's not really building something down there. Neither is Dan Hurley. What it is the ADs were like, how much will it take for you to not go there? Here you go. That's what happened. That's what happened.
Probably true.
And that's what happened. I'm not denying. Obviously, Alabama is on the rise, but they almost beat. They gave Connecticut a scare, as Morgan will tell you. But it's Alabama basketball. Like Arkansas, the reason is because he felt like he could do something at Arkansas that they haven't done in years. And I think Arkansas will appreciate getting one national title. Obviously, I'm of the mindset, as Morgan knows, that you need to get the most championships ever. But I do think they were a little bit ungrateful in Kentucky because it is hard. It's easier to win a championship when you're getting John Wall, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, and others to come there, right? But it's a little bit harder when you're getting players that aren't on that level, right? They're not generational players. This is no knock on the people he recruited at Kentucky, but they're not Anthony Davis. They're not John Wall. They're not transitional, foundational players. That's not them, but that I think Arkansas would be happy to get one championship in 10 years and be like, all right, you're good, Cal. So I think that close to Little Rock, Lexington, Kentucky. I think you pick Little Rock. But I'll let you because I'll let you go. But yeah, Arkansas is up right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun run. I think I'm happy for Arkansas. That's all I think that's all I can kind of say. I'm happy for them. We'll see how they do in the portal. And did you see Calipari's first press conference?
No.
He was like, I talked to the team. There is no team. We got to hit the portal. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you would think that, since most of those players were recruited by Eric Musselman, that, they're going to USC with him. So I would assume, except for maybe the walk-ons. Everybody's favorite, the walk-ons. So, I mean, you're already seeing it, right? Like Bronny James, we were wondering why Bronny James would transfer and try to go to the draft. We're seeing why Musselman's coming. Isaiah Collier is out now, too. So you're seeing what's going on. All the players that were with the previous coach are either transferring, they'll probably end up at SMU, or they'll go somewhere else. So, some of this stuff is very easy. Yeah, it's wherever the new coach goes, you'll see transfers. Just follow that. But yeah, to our next question, we talked about this a little bit. Does this new coaching acquisition make Arkansas the basketball capital of the South? So I know that some of y'all are just going to hear basketball capital and not hear me say of the South. This is no knock on UConn, which I know is basketball title
capital of the world, but we'll go. The South can have their own.
Yeah. So the Arkansas, yes, I think this makes Arkansas better than Alabama. I think they will get all of Kentucky's players that are good that he recruited to go to Arkansas, and I think that the Arkansas will be an SEC contender, and I think that they'll be a top 2 team in the East, and not the East, the SEC, and I think that Texas and Oklahoma are probably upset right now that they're transferring into the SEC at the wrong time as far as basketball is concerned. So because I think a lot of the players that are NBA first round draft picks are going to go with Cal to Arkansas. And, I think that makes you a little bit upset if you're Texas, if you're Oklahoma, if you're Bama, because you're going to lose a lot of players that you could have recruited out of Arkansas now, because guess who's in Arkansas now? The ultimate recruiter, the ultimate guy who doesn't care, the one and done, two and done type of guy, John Calipari. So, yeah, I think Arkansas is definitely a top 3 team in the SEC, and officially now, I guess, the basketball capital of the South.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Alabama's going to give them a run for their money. But there's no in college sports, you can't underestimate how important a coach is, especially with recruiting. And Calipari is so good at recruiting, so good at finding those niche guys to come in, like you're right, he doesn't care if they're one and done. And that's sometimes what you need.
Yeah. And okay, and now we'll preview the SEC. How do we view the power in the SEC now? I think you talked about it, right? It's Arkansas, it's Alabama, it's you can't forget Texas. Oklahoma's kind of down right now, so we don't really consider Oklahoma a threat at the moment. But those are your top three right there: Arkansas, Bama, and Texas. And I think Arkansas, I think Arkansas, of all of these teams, Arkansas clearly has the best coach in basketball in the SEC. I think that some people are thinking that obviously the top two coaches in the SEC are one's in South Carolina. Shout out North Philly. Shout out Dawn Staley. The other one is in Arkansas right now. And I think that, I think like Morgan said, the coaching advantage is the coaching advantage. And, I think that there was a lot going on at Kentucky that won't be going on at Arkansas. And I think that, I think that we'll be seeing Arkansas in a Final Four very, very soon, as soon as next year, to me.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. All right. And then to the new Wildcat who said we are all in this together, Mark Pope becoming a Wildcat. What's our reaction to this? My reaction to this is very simple. I would trade Lexington, Kentucky over Mormonville, and I'm not getting paid millions of dollars. So to his credit, he got BYU to the tournament the last few years. It seems like he's a good recruiter. I would think if you're Kentucky, you're about to see an influx of a lot of players from Utah. I'm not saying they're all Mormons because BYU is the Mormon university, but that doesn't mean that you are Mormon just because you go there. But I would expect an influx of Mormons to Kentucky. Those Kentucky girls are gonna be very happy to see these Mormons coming in, I guess. But I am very I don't know what to think as far as this. I think that this is the coach that I think that this was the third option. They clearly wanted Dan Hurley and Scott Drew, and both of them said no because they like their lives being very stable. For those that don't know, Scott Drew, the Baylor coach, was considering going there, but then he talked about his kids more than his wife. So I guess his wife is just like talk to the kids. But because he has three kids and they're both, and all three of them, I guess, are between high school and college age, and all they've really known is Waco, Texas. He's won there. That's all they've really known. They did not want to go to Lexington, Kentucky. And, and that's what won out. Like I said off air, it seems these basketball coaches who get way more money than these football coaches anyway, they have way more time, so they don't really care when these dream jobs come up. As football coaches just go with the flow. But it seems like these basketball coaches are really, really actually consider their families more than football coaches.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but I want to say that basketball coaches tend to stay at schools longer than football coaches.
They do.
As a general rule. So I think that it is really important. Like, where do we want to be? Do we want to be in Kentucky? Do we want to be in Connecticut? Do we want to be in LA or South Carolina or Alabama, wherever you are, especially if you plan on being there for a while. And I think, Mark Pope went to Kentucky, is an alumni of there. And I think that always helps. I know a lot of times people that alumni, they don't necessarily do all that well at the schools that they went to, but, I'm excited. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. It seems like they are definitely getting a good deal. I'm sure he's going to be making buka money. I'm sure he and his family will be very happy and taken care of down there in Kentucky.
Yeah, and I mean, he's bringing most of his players with him, so so I think that's it sucks for BYU, but I'm sure that they can find some Mormon basketball player somewhere.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so the other one, the big one in women's college basketball, Tara Vanderveer, the coach of Stanford, is retiring. What's our reaction to this? Which Morgan, you want to go first here?
Congrats, coach. I mean, just an unbelievable career. Um, you know, just an absolutely unbelievable career. Helped change the women's game. Believe she won a few gold medals. Yes.
Yep.
As a coach as well. Definitely won her share of NCAA championships.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Great career. And now go enjoy time with your family. Enjoy not starting on the transfer portal tomorrow. And, I'm happy for her. I'm really, really happy. It's definitely a loss for the women's basketball game, but, and I hope she continues to be an advocate for women's sports, but even if she doesn't, she's done so much and deserves all the relaxation and rest and all that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Like she just won a championship, what, 2, 3 years ago, with Stanford. Stanford women's basketball, obviously a perennial powerhouse, and that's because of her being able to recruit Cameron Brink, and a bunch of other players who are now in the WNBA. Got Russell Wilson's sister to come there, and had some really good teams at Stanford. So Coach Vanderveer, who I think is the all-time winningest coach now in women's sports. Congratulations on a great career, on winning those championships, on being an advocate, as Morgan said, for the women's game. Um, you know, like if nothing else, you basically had an all-star team, and the last of your all-star team is now about to go to the WNBA. Cameron Brink, the youngest one. And I am very excited for Stanford, future ACC, my future ACC brother school. So congrats to Stanford. Like we said, the all-time winningest program. A lot of people are like, "What's the all-time winningest program?" It's Stanford because they win a lot on things that are not women's basketball, but things that are not the main two sports, gymnastics. I think they're a rowing school as well. So congratulations to Tara Vanderveer and to Stanford. And I'm sure that the next coach will have a lot to build on. At Stanford, if nothing else, that Stanford's going to be a women's basketball powerhouse. Now they're working on men's basketball and football, but if nothing else, they'll always be at the top in women's basketball, whether that's in the Pac-12 or when they get to the ACC, upcoming in the ACC. So I am very worried if I am Duke, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and all these other teams that are ACC women's basketball powerhouses that now have big sister Stanford coming in very soon. I am, but that's just because of what Tara Vanderveer built, and that's a big congratulations. Now go enjoy not having to worry about basketball, going to Palo Alto, California for fun, which I don't think anybody's ever said that a sentence, but going to Palo Alto, California for fun now instead of for work. Congrats to her. Now on to another thing. The Gamecocks whooped the Hawkeyes. I mean, it was a bad weekend if you were an Iowa fan of either school.
I was gonna say a Big Ten. I was gonna say a Big Ten fan.
A Big Ten, or just like you were a fan. You're a state of, because they're both in Iowa. You're an Iowa resident that either is an alum of Purdue or Iowa. It was a bad weekend for you. The Gamecocks whooped on the Hawkeyes, proving me right. Dawn was looking out for her Philly brother. I said last week, and I think Morgan was in agreement with me, that between UConn and Iowa, they were both playing for second anyway, because neither team could beat South Carolina, and it wasn't looking good at first. Like Caitlin Clark was dropping 30 points before halftime. South Carolina was looking a little shell shocked, but then Raven Johnson and them put Caitlin Clark in lockdown. Tina Pow was making threes. Like the thing that was a knock
it
on
was
South
just like
Carolina last year came
you
through. Like they were making threes everywhere. I
yeah,
was like, wait a minute, is Caitlin Clark on South Carolina? Because the way Tahina Pow was pulling up, I was like, oh my God, this girl. Where's this girl? Another top 3-point shooter. But yeah, like South Carolina whooped up on Iowa. Ended Caitlin Clark and Iowa's storied season. Congrats to Dawn
yeah,
Staley and the
it
girls
was
of South
amazing.
Carolina.
It was amazing. It looked like maybe for the first quarter that Iowa could do something. Caitlin Clark came out firing, and then it just South Carolina did what South Carolina does, and they were swallowing. And I mean, it's so impressive. I know this is kind of going into the next question. If you want to switch it, we can kind of talk about this as well. But it no, like the thing that makes Dawn Staley and South Carolina and this team so crazy is this team was all new. Like right. None of the 5 starters from last year returned, and they still were undefeated this year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Bunkers.
The only starters that returned were, well, I mean, she wasn't a starter. She was a bench piece. But Camilla, then that's crazy, right? You got a top 4 pick that was on your bench that only just became a starter and was from Syracuse, and Camilla Cardoso. Like her and I think Raven Johnson were like the only 2 or 3 players from last year that came. Obviously, she had a powerful freshman class bullied by Full Wiley. I mean, what can you say about these freshmen? Full Wiley, who's going to be a starter, Raven Johnson now. Like, what can you say about these freshmen and sophomores? Because, I mean, let's be real. When Camilla and them were shell-shocked, it was Full Wiley and Tahina Pow and, like, the newbies that really stabilized this team. I have never seen a team. I just talked about UConn, right? That a bunch of players who are not from Philadelphia that just embodied – like a team and a Philly team like South Carolina did. Like they had every reason to quit, right? Caitlin Clark was dominant that first quarter and second quarter. And like she was pulling up basically from the South Carolina logo and making those threes. And they had every reason to give up, but those freshmen who didn't know any better, Full Wiley was like, I see Caitlin Clark's dominance and I'll raise your mind, right? Like, I mean, what can you say about those freshmen, man, who are going to now have won a ring and can't be told anything? Even if they lose next year, like a game or two, like they still have this experience. And I think South Carolina is going to go back to back. And I think the only school that can compete with them is Paige Bueckers in them. And like they just got a big time top 5 player too. But there's rumors that
looking like there's gonna get the girl from Oregon State too.
Yeah, and there's rumors that there might be a big. I know Morgan doesn't want to hear this, but the rumor mill is saying that there's going to be a big transfer from UConn, and some people are looking at your girl Ozzy, but I don't know if that'll be true or not.
She's best friends with Paige. There's no way she's leaving.
We don't know, but that's what the rumor mill is saying. I don't know if I necessarily believe that it'll be Ozzy, but I am of the mindset that if UConn continues to keep their players, they've already got a big time freshman coming in. If that recruitment class looks as good as it's supposed to look, as we know Gino Auriemma knows how to recruit, and specifically knows how to recruit around here, being from Norristown. So if he can get those big time players in the Northeast to come here, he's not in Philadelphia, to come to Stores, then then I think the only team that can really beat them is UConn. Unless, like we said, Iowa comes back with the revenge tour, which they might. Can't disrespect Iowa. They might be able to get another person like a Caitlin Clark. I don't know if that'll be true, but they could. You never know. The transfer portal, like I said, is a great equalizer. Who knows? Haley Van Lith may go to Iowa now. Who knows? So you never know. So that's the big thing. But yeah, I think that barring a UConn revenge tour, that South Carolina can go back to back.
I mean, I don't see any. Yeah, they're definitely the scariest opponents that we have.
Yeah. All right. So Another one, big ups for women's sports.
It was awesome.
18.7 million people watched South Carolina versus Iowa. Now you might be asking, like I was, why didn't they just round it up to 19? Apparently people don't like rounding stuff up. But for all intents and purposes, 19 million people watched South Carolina versus Iowa. To put that in perspective, this is the highest rated basketball game, and it beats a lot of football games too. 19 million people
Crazy.
watch this game. So what's your reaction to this?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it shows that people care and that women's sports really are the up and coming. And like, there's definitely a part of it that's the Caitlin Clark effect, and that's fine. Um, but it's so cool. Like, it is so cool. I am so happy for the players. I'm so happy for, and you can't, you have to think about all the players that came before too, right? All the players that made this possible for them to be here. So
shout out Diana Taurasi, shout out Maya Moore, shout out
yeah.
Shamika Holdsclaw, shout out Candace Parker, shout out Lisa Leslie, shout out Cynthia Cooper, shout out Tina Thompson, shout out Cheryl Swoops, shout out all them players that did all this before. Go right it. Sorry.
No. That's exactly what it is. It's amazing. It is powerful, and it's awesome. And I hope that this continues for years to come. I hope this isn't just a one and done thing. And I hope that this translates into the WNBA too, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, look, I think this is a testament to, and this kind of gets into the next question. It's a very much a testament to the Caitlin Clark and Dawn Staley effect. I think the fact that Dawn Staley is from Philly, a lot of this is probably from the Philadelphia area, and the Iowa area as well. I also think that this is a testament to what I talk about all the time, that I think the NFL has outsmarted the NBA with this, right? They put their games, except for on Thursday night, on places where people can find it, right? I think that this is the effect that we're seeing. Like, this game was on ABC, Channel 6 here in Philadelphia. Like, it was on the ABC affiliate, something that was easy to find. You didn't have to have a cable subscription or a streaming subscription to find it. You know, the NBA used to see numbers like this when we were kids because they were on NBC. They were on places where you didn't have to have a cable subscription to find it, right? And I think that this is what we're seeing now, right? You know, ESPN is starting to put gymnastics on ABC. Like, they're starting to see, you know, CBS is putting WNBA games on the main CBS channel, right? Like, you're starting to see that, oh my God, as long as you don't need a cable subscription, and if you've got basic streaming, as long as you're able to find this stuff, people will watch. Oh my God, if the stuff isn't on ESPN and stuff is not locked behind a cable subscription or a streaming subscription, people watch. Oh my God, it's not rocket science. It's like I've been saying for months. The NBA, they're about to get a new, I don't mean to make this women's moment about the NBA and the WNBA, but like, you know, the WNBA, because they're seeing it with Caitlin Clark, that they might get their own deal now because Caitlin Clark brings in the viewers, right? But it's like I said, I you know, as journalists, we always say that, like, you know, and for a lot of you, I don't want you guys to take offense. It's just a saying that we say, treat you guys like you're little kids. So, like, if we put it somewhere where you can find it, you'll find it, right? And so that's the thing, and I think that's what you know, ESPN is seeing. You put the John on Channel 6, on the regular main ABC channel that people don't need cable for, or if you have streaming, you have Disney Plus or Hulu, it's your main local subscription, so you have it anyway. Like, you know, people will watch. You know, as long as people can find it, people will watch. You know,
Yeah.
if you build it, they will come. If you put it on regular television, people will find it. And this is the one thing that I think football does right that all the other sports need to do. Put your stuff not on the cable stuff, because people are leaving cable. Morgan is a prime example of this. She does not have cable. Her and dad have all streaming. Like, it is a prime example. I mean, I still have cable, but that's because, like, I'm with some boomers. So, like, you know, that is the thing. So, like, if you put it somewhere people can find it, it will come. This is great for women's sports, but for everybody else, do what the NFL and now women's college basketball, gymnastics are doing. Put it on places where people can find it. This is
Yep,
great. People will watch if they can find it.
they will for sure.
Yeah. And so, is this the Caitlin Clark effect? Did she get too much attention this year? So for me, this is definitely the Caitlin Clark effect. It's also the Dawn Staley effect. It's a lot of effects here. But did she get too much attention this year? I think she did. I think they tried to spread it out between her, Paige, Juju, Camilla, Angel Reese. But I think that she did get too much attention. I think there was a lot of attention spread out in the Northeast between UConn and Iowa. And I think that there was somebody, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a love of this school, but they had the number 3 scorer 5 hours away from me in Syracuse. And up until she lit up UConn, not a lot of people knew who she was. And that is unfair to her because she is the 3rd leading scorer behind Kelsey and now Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And no one knew who Deasia Fair was until she lit up UConn, and before that lit up Texas. And that is a shame because she was out here doing stuff that not many people were doing outside of Iowa and Storrs, Connecticut. And no one knew who she was outside of Syracuse and us people who are alums who love basketball. And that is a shame. Caitlin Clark will probably admit that she got too much attention. She said this. The pressure was unbelievable this year, right? Because she was basically the god of women's basketball, whether people agree with that or not. She was, this year. And, they tried to spread it out between her, Angel, Juju, Paige, but you're ignoring the all-time 3rd leading scorer in Deasia Fair. And that is a shame. So she should get way more credit, and then no one else will give Deasia credit other than her coach and the Syracuse media. I will. Let the person outside of Philadelphia, let the person in Philadelphia do this and bring her to attention. When she goes to the WNBA, she might not be a top 10 pick, but she is going to change the franchise of whatever school she goes to. Deasia Fair, remember that name. And your girl, Aaliyah Edwards, too. There were a lot of players who didn't get the shine.
They didn't get any coverage this year because it was all about the shooters and the guards. And I mean, there were some really good bigs, really good bigs. So.
And obviously Cam Brink and Angel Reese took up the big woman attention as well.
Yeah.
But you have all that. But Deasia Fair, the 3rd leading scorer who no one knew outside of Syracuse and us Syracuse alums, who if she didn't light up your ACC school, it felt like people didn't know who she was, and that's a shame. It is a shame. Hold on, what's up, RC? It is a shame that people didn't know who Deasia was, but that's my answer to this question.
I've talked about it a ton. You know how I feel. Caitlin is an amazing player, an amazing shooter, but I do think that a lot of other players weren't talked about nearly as much because of that.
Yeah. All right. So who's next in women's basketball? You want to start?
Paige Bueckers. Paige. Ozzy Fudd. The girl, I cannot remember her name, from NC State.
I know you. Yeah, she's gonna be good. Hannah Hidalgo.
NC State.
Yeah, why you do that? Paige Bueckers, Hannah Hidalgo, Juju Watkins.
Juju, yeah.
There was a player, Azia James. RC just helped us out.
Oh yeah.
Azia James. Or Isaiah James. Thank you, RC. See, I am of the mindset that it's Paige, it's Ozzy. There's a new girl coming, who's like the top 5-star recruit in the class. Moasia Wiley in South Carolina. To run it down for you. It's funny because people are like, Alan, stay away from women's basketball. And I'm like, bro, I grew up on this. Like, nah, bro. But yeah, Paige Beckers, Hannah Hidalgo, at Notre Dame. Like I said, Juju, Ozzy. Hopefully she can stay healthy. Um, Azia James, as RC pointed out. And so many others. The girl at Utah, the Samoan athlete. She's next. Forgive me. I identified her by her heritage and not her name. My bad to you Utah fans, but you know who I'm talking about. I am of the mindset that a lot of these women are up next. Obviously, next year's class of Paige Beckers at the lead, who will probably be the number one pick. It's just going to be banging for you people who are uh, who are who are women's basketball fans just like
Yeah, it's
me.
gonna be awesome.
But with Paige Beckers coming next, it's about to be crazy up in this thing. And speaking of, the WRC is bringing up Tessa Johnson, from another Gamecock. So um, so we'll give him a shine. She's not a Gamecocks fan, but yeah, Helly Van Lift. We talked about this. Yeah,
Yeah,
whoever.
I'm intrigued. Again, we're still waiting to hear when can they start announcing where people are going. I actually don't know that answer. Is there a time
I think now that the
now?
season.
Now
Yeah,
the season's officially over.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll see about Haley. I think that there's some people in Iowa that would be very happy to have her. They need a point guard, and that's really what she is anyway. So I think that she'll do well in a place where she can be the star and get all the attention. So I think Iowa would be great. I know Morgan wants her in UConn, but I don't know if that'll work with Ozzy and Paige there, unless she's going to become a small forward. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, let's preview the next thing, the WNBA draft, which is on
Woo!
Monday.
Is
Oof.
Thursday, right? It's the 15th.
Is it? I thought it was Monday. Yeah, so it's Monday.
Is that the
Let's check.
15th? I think it's the 15th. I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's either Sunday or Monday. You want to check? I thought it was Monday. Hold on, I think I just looked at this. Anyway, it's coming up. Um, yes, Monday, the 15th. You're right, the
Okay.
15th.
So I didn't know. I
So,
knew it was the 15th. I just didn't know what day that was. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
Monday. So yeah, obviously we know who the number one pick is. You guys are seeing it. The Indiana Fever, Aaliyah Boston. It seems like we'll get her running mate, Caitlin Clark. And what a tandem that'll be.
Crazy.
Yeah, what a tandem that'll be. RC wants to say something to you. Hold on. You see this? Look down below. They said they cheated you. You didn't get into this. You want to. I mean, we're talking about the WNBA, but I'll let you get like 4 minutes. And I heard they cheated y'all. I heard they cheated y'all.
It was so
I
bad.
was
I mean,
watching
it was one of
SmackDown
those things.
Live.
It was just like you can't call that there. Yeah. Was it a foul? Sure, maybe a little bit, but like it's like a half foul even in like the first 2 minutes of the game. It was just frustrating. It's just crappy when games end like that, regardless of what side you're on. It's like when
when the Eagles got screwed with that holding call. Yeah. You could go there. I know you want to go there.
I was gonna say the pass interference call, no pass interference call, because it's the end. It's just like the same kind of thing. Like you don't want a game to end because, yeah, I don't know. It was horrible. But I'm proud of them. Like no bench players. Like they're rock stars. They're gonna come back and be better than ever next year. But I'm better than I was. I was legitimately sick to my stomach when it happened. Like legitimately sick to my stomach.
And she hyped that game up. She was.
I
was excited to see it, but I knew I wasn't going to see it because I probably was going to SmackDown because that was in Philly. But Morgan was so excited to see this game and to have it end like that. It's crazy. But they wow, you were a lot lighter on them than I thought you would be. The refs.
It's been a week, so I have calmed down a little bit. But yeah, I was sick to my stomach when it happened.
Yeah, so the WNBA draft preview. So I think we know who the number one pick is going to be. Like I said, Caitlin Clark will be running her. Will be running with Aaliyah Boston. It'll become the Boston and Clark connection. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. The Boston and Clark connection, Clark Boston connection. Um, but yeah, so that'll happen, and everybody's kind of seeing it with the way that they've announced the WNBA schedule. That I believe the Fever have the most nationally televised games, and a lot of people who are Aces fans are not happy about that because it's Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum's league, and everybody else is just living in it. But that's what it is. That's the Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston effect. It's kind of crazy. Uh, uh, and RC has a comment. Hold on. But again, this is why you need comments. He or she calls him the Aaliyah Clarkson connection, but
I like
I think
that.
I think the Clark Boston connection Boston Clark connection would be is a good one. It doesn't matter. I'm sure they'll find something else. Um, but yeah, I expect the Fever to take Clark. After that, it's a crapshoot. I think I know
It's gonna be
Morgan
a
thinks
line
that the
of
next
bigs. I think Cameron Brink might
yeah
go second. But you
yeah
said maybe Angel Reese.
yeah I can see. This is what I think. I think that the best team for Angel Reese is the comparison that I made, and this will answer RC's question. I think Angel Reese can go anywhere from depending on how they feel about Cameron Brink. I think she could go two, but I think it just depends on the need of that team. I believe the number two pick is the Dream, but I will check that. But I think that I think it'll be Cameron Brink and or Angel Reese. I think Cameron Brink, I like her. But I think she's more of a defensive specialist. She's got to work on her jump shot. I know it's gotten a lot more consistent than it was when she first came in the league. But I think that, I'm sorry, to the women's college basketball, not the league. She's not in the league yet. But I'm previewing that. So I think Angel can go anywhere from like URC to the 8, but I think that the best fit for her will probably be the LA Sparks. And I'm not just saying that because last week I called her Lisa Leslie, but she compares very favorably to that. And I think like Cameron, I think the most complete big in this draft is Camila Cardoso. I can see Camila going two as well. But I think that both of them, especially in a league that you need a jump shot to survive in, I
Yeah,
think that all three of them need to get more consistent jump shots. And that's been the knock on specifically Camila Cardoso, is that she doesn't really have a consistent jump shot. That's what hindered her at Syracuse before she transferred. It hindered her a little bit at South Carolina as well, until Dawn didn't really have a choice after Aaliyah and them left, and so she had to start her. And I think so. I think that too. This is probably your lineup right here. It'll probably be Cameron Brink because she's projected to go to Camilla. Then more than likely, uh, yes, I forgot about Rakia. Um, you've got Rakia Jackson. She'll probably go 3. So yeah, so anywhere. So I think that Angel Reese will probably end up going 4, like you, going 4 to 8. But I think that if the next team isn't enamored with Cameron Brink, I think Angel Reese and or Camila Cardoso could sneak in at 2.
yeah, I don't
Just
disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. Well, we will definitely make sure to cover it next week. We'll give you all things WNBA draft after it happens on Monday. We will cover that on Thursday
yeah, and or Friday, depending on
and
our
our and our Friday, depending on Morgan's work schedule.
schedule. Yeah. Um, so yeah. Did you see this guy? Yeah, the bank was open for that one. I know Tennessee was upset. That's such a Tennessee way to lose a bank 3-1.
Crazy. I know. Well, that was like Donovan Clingan took a 3 in the championship game. We all were like, didn't go in, but it was exciting. It's always
Yeah.
exciting when the bigs take 3s. Yeah. So to answer this question, is the transfer portal ruining college sports or equalizing the playing field? I think who depends on who you ask. I think it's good. I think that college athletes should be able to have somewhat of a say in where they go. And if they aren't happy, if they're sitting on the bench and they're not playing, why not go somewhere else where they can thrive? I think that sometimes these kids don't have the opportunity to get scouted by big level schools when they're in high school. So they have to go and prove themselves for a year or two, and then they're able to transfer. And I think that's really smart and really good. I don't have an issue with it. I don't. And I think it's equalizing stuff. I mean, there's much more parity in the sports across, of course, UConn just went back to back, but in South Carolina, we'll probably go back to back this year. But you're still seeing schools you haven't seen before in both of these, in both men's and women's, making it to Elite Eights and Final Fours that never have before.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that I don't think it's ruining college sports. I know some of the purists are upset because, like, they don't have that rule anymore where you got to sit out a year or two while the coach just gets to coach. And I'm of the mindset that, if you're not getting what you want, then you need to leave. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm of the mindset that the people should treat schools the way they treat jobs. If it's not going the way, if it's not benefiting you, get rid of it. I'm of the mindset that, you come like coaches. I've said this before. They would say that they recruit. I say they lie. They come to your house and lie all the time, talking about they'll take care of you. Everything, college sports right now, yesterday's price isn't today's price. And that's specifically with these coaches as well. Like, I am of the mindset that the transfer portal is a great equalizer. Obviously, you're only really seeing it in basketball and football. I mean, it plays out a little bit in gymnastics too, but that's more, and then lacrosse, but that's more because those sports end in like June. You really don't see the transfers for gymnastics and lacrosse and track until then. But specifically in basketball and football, it happens from now until about August. So I am of the mindset that it's the great equalizer, and you college sports purists just need to get used to it because you got used to it with the coaches. You need to get used to it with these players. They're
It's not
not
going
going to.
anywhere.
You see this great exodus. I know some people are upset because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is leaving Indiana State. Maybe for somewhere else where he can get some more star power outside of YouTube highlights. Which I'm proud of him. He was a star at Indiana State, even though most of us didn't know much about him. Like, I didn't find out about him until Morgan was like, "Hey, have you heard of this dude, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?" And I was like, "No, I have not." So, it's one of those things. And I think that's an indictment right there, like, of Indiana State, that you had this type of player and, people didn't really know who this person was, right? So, like, I feel like this is great for them, for those players who get to know and people get to know them and they'll just get better at other schools. And I feel for the mid-major programs, like Morgan represents the JMUs, the Indiana States, the FIUs of the world who are going to lose players to the Seton Halls, to the other players. Like, these mid-major programs are basically development leagues for these players to go where they want to go, to the Blue Bloods, to the Syracuses, to the UConns, to the Arkansas, to the Kentuckys, and it sucks for y'all, but that's what it is, right? Like, that's what happens now that these players still have their COVID years and everything else. So, I am of the mindset that it's the great equalizer. Now to a topic near and dear to my heart. The Philadelphia 76ers on a 6-game win streak, the hottest team in basketball. And I just enjoy being able to say, especially to Morgan, who said this wouldn't matter when Joel Embiid came back 2 weeks ago, that I think it's mattering. So
they look really good right now.
Yeah. So right now, for those of you that don't know, the Sixers, it is looking good for them. The Magic are sucking at the right time. And Milwaukee is sucking at the right time. And it looks like the Sixers right now can go anywhere between the 5 to 8 seed if everything goes right. Obviously, they have to win their next 2 games, starting tonight against the Magic, and then against the lowly Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. So if they do that, they go 2-0. They can avoid the play-in tournament and be a 6 seed. I know a lot of you NBA play-in fans are upset because all of you wanted to get your jokes off about Joel Embiid being in the play-in tournament. when your Kings, LeBron, Steph Curry, and Jimmy Butler been in the play-in tournament, and none of y'all got the jokes off, but I know you wanted to get them jokes off about Joel Embiid being in the play-in tournament, but it looks like he might not be in the play-in tournament, and I think this is great for the Sixers because they need to get healthy and they need to do everything they can to avoid the play-in tournament. And it's already sucking that if they did get in the play-in tournament, they would have to wait until those lowly bums, the Philadelphia Flyers, end their season on Tuesday and wouldn't play until Wednesday. And I think that is a great reason why they won the stadium right there. There's nothing more that says that than that. But I think that Sixers are looking really, really good. And I am of the mindset that as long as they take care of business and win both of these games starting tonight, that they can avoid the play-in tournament and be able to, like I said, in the misery of the Knicks and or the Cleveland Cavaliers, whoever the 3 seed is.
Whatever you say. Whatever you say.
I mean, you are becoming an NBA person, so you can have opinions. You don't have to.
I said my opinions. I've said my opinions. They look good. They look really good, and I'm very happy for you. We'll see the scores next week.
This is what happens when you're good friends. I just answered this question.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
No, I mean, if they keep playing like this, yeah, they'll avoid the play-in tournament, which would be very nice because the play-in tournament is not fun and no one wants to be in that.
Yeah. So I'll let you start with this if you got something, or I can start. Who is your 2023 to 24 NBA MVP favorite right now?
You go first.
All right.
I have 3 I'm picking between.
So mine right now, 1A is just again, for those of you that don't know my opinion on this is that obviously whoever the MVP, they deserve it, obviously. But if it wasn't for Joel Embiid getting injured, he'd be a back-to-back MVP. But to me, it's Jokic. That's my number one. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because the Thunder are just really, really good. And I'm gonna make you Boston fans really happy. Jason Tatum. Those are my 3 because I think if you're on the best team, which Tatum is, that you deserve some consideration, even though you're playing with an all-star team in your starting 5. But I think he deserves to be second or third. But I think I put Jokic and Gilgeous-Alexander above them because they are the superstars of their team and they do a lot more than Tatum does to make sure that their team is good. And this is no knock on Tatum. Obviously, when you play with Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis, you're going to have your numbers diminished a little bit. But I think it's Jokic who will probably win. But I wouldn't mind if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Tatum win it as well.
I was going to say Tatum just because I feel like he means so much to the city, means so much to that team right now, is like almost like a glue factor, not even just on the court, but like off the court, leadership, that kind of stuff. And then Jokic, I always say it wrong. It's Nikola Jokic.
Jokic, yeah, you said it right. Jokic.
Oh my gosh, it's like I like second guess myself because I've said it wrong so many times. So Jokic, I mean, he is so good. Like he can take over a game. He can, and I think that is what's hard is like, about Jason Tatum is like if you pulled him out and put somebody else in, they might still win. It might not be as handedly, but if you pull out Jokic, they're not winning. So yeah. So is that what a MVP? If that's what your definition of MVP is, then it should go to Jokic.
Like I said, I think the MVP, the real MVP is here in Philadelphia, and I think that you don't have to look too far. We talked about this on the game, how the Sixers look without Joel Embiid. I think everybody saw it on full display. But again, like you said, if you take Jokic and like I said, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander off their teams, I think because both of them have Chet Holmgren on the Thunder and you have Jamal Murray, I think they still win, but I think they don't look as dominant as they do with both of their superstars. And obviously, like I said, Tatum, this is the ultimate respect to him that he's a top 3 MVP candidate. But he just, it's one of those things when you're on the best team. It would be one thing if he was on the best team and then he didn't have, like, I feel like he had a better case last year when he didn't have Porzingis and Holiday and it was just him and Brown. But now that he has Porzingis and Holiday, like it is a question of, like, is it really him? Is it not? Um, you know, uh, RC has an interesting one here. He's talking about they can extend their championship window if they can lure Doncic away from Dallas. He must watch this show because I have said this, as Morgan knows, that everybody's worried about Joel Embiid when they should be worried about Luka Doncic leaving Dallas
Yeah.
if he ever gets sick of Kyrie Irving. So, I am of the mindset I don't know if he'll go to the Nuggets, but I could see it. I mean, they're both European players, so I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
But I could definitely. I'm in agreement with you, RC, that Luka might be the next one to say bye to their franchise. But RC also said that he's a Timberwolves fan, so this will be close to his heart. The Minnesota Timberwolves minority owners, Alex Rodriguez, you baseball fans know him as A-Rod, and Mark Lore wanted to cut the payroll of RC's team, the Timberwolves. But however, the majority owner, Glenn Taylor, thought that would not let them compete in the loaded Western Conference. And boy, howdy, was he right, right? Oh my goodness. What is your reaction to this, Morgan? And this kind of plays into the next question. Can Moneyball work in the current version of the NBA?
I would say yes, honestly, if you have the right players to do it, the right people, because I think you have to have motivated people that just want to win a championship. You know what I mean? Like willing to take some pay cuts to get some better players on the team, do the Tom Brady model. But it depends. I mean, the problem with this is that these athletes, their longevity is their bodies, and they don't know if they take a pay cut one year and they get hurt and that's it. And not that they don't have enough money to live, because they do, because they make more than most people make in their lifetimes in half a year. But I think you have to find the right group of people that would be willing to do it. I don't think that the owners can just like do it. Like, I think that's a weird move. I think that like it has to be like a conversation or brought up by the players themselves.
Yeah, I think so. My reaction initially when I first saw this story was that makes sense as to why that makes sense why we were hearing, I think all of us were hearing our season Timberwolves, man. He said Glenn Taylor needs to go away. But I think this is why I know Morgan and I we were hearing about the strife between the three owners, with Lore and A-Rod being the minority owners and Glenn Taylor being the majority owners. We were hearing about like them maybe leaving Minnesota. And that's what led to Minnesota, I guess, signing whatever it was, that binding agreement to keep them in Minnesota. That's what led to that. But we really couldn't figure out what were they beefing about. And now I think we know what they were beefing about now. A-Rod wanted to take the baseball approach to an NBA problem. And I think that being cheap works in baseball and football and hockey more than it does in basketball, especially when you have, as RC would probably say, you have a great budding duo right now of Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns is a free agent in the summer, so I think the pay cut was probably not extending Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think that is stupid on A-Rod and Mark Lore's part. If that is what they were hinting at, because like the reason that the Timberwolves work, and right now he's injured, but the reason the Timberwolves work is because you have Karl-Anthony Towns, who's a multi-level scorer, and Anthony Edwards, and the pressure is off Anthony Edwards to be the main player because you have Karl-Anthony Towns there. So I think it works because of that. But if you're trying to cut that, I think if Karl-Anthony Towns isn't there, I know RC doesn't want to hear this, and Anthony Edwards might not be there either because, you know, if you're going cheapskate Karl-Anthony Towns, the person who you also drafted, and has been there and has been riding in Minnesota for forever, right? Then what does that say to Anthony Edwards when you want to re-sign him, right? And you can't extend it past his 5th year rookie extension later, right? Like I think it doesn't work in the NBA just because these players are too money savvy, right? Like in baseball, there's no salary cap, so it doesn't matter if I take a pay cut because I'm gonna get my money, right? You know, there aren't too many baseball players with endorsement deals. I mean, let's be real. Like there's a reason why most of these baseball players end up either coaching or on TV because most of us don't know what they look like. Even though we look at them all the time, most people, like, I think this was a joke about Mike Trout. Like, if I didn't see Mike Trout at Eagles games, he could probably walk past me and I probably wouldn't know who he was, right? So, like, and I think that's a knock on baseball. Like, that's why it works in baseball because there's no salary cap. It works in hockey because, as Morgan pointed out, there's no salary cap. You can get a 10-year, $500 million deal because hockey players don't get endorsements. like you know, maybe because of Connor, but not hockey players don't really get endorsement deals. So, like, you know, that's what it is, right? For NBA players, that's how they make their money. Their game checks and their endorsement deals. So, you know, it doesn't really work in the NBA. This is what RC said. Like, you know, I'm of the mindset that if you don't have Karl-Anthony Towns and, you know, he is a free agent this year, if you stiff him, like, again, I'm just speculating here because the reports are that A-Rod and Mark Lord wanted to cut the payroll, and the only real people that you would cut the payroll for that are coming up is Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. So those are your 2 big players right now who are making the money. So that's why I'm saying that if they stiff Karl-Anthony Towns this summer, then they might as well kiss Anthony Edwards goodbye after the rookie extensions in another 2-3 years. But, you know, they might not do that. Like I said, Glenn Taylor is the majority owner. It seems like, I know RC doesn't really like him, but it seems like he wants to spend money. So, you know, if that's the case, then, you know, they should be able to keep their 2 players. So yeah. All right. So now you want to lead into this one?
Yeah. So this, a lot of you probably didn't see it, but a question from a journalist was asked to Dawn Staley before the game about if she believes that trans athletes should be involved in college sports. Now, first off, what an inappropriate time to ask that question, in my opinion. There was not a single trans athlete on any of the Final Four teams. And these coaches are prepping for huge, enormous games. What an inappropriate time to ask that question. Like, I just don't feel like that is the appropriate. You should be asking questions about the game, about their opponents, about the players on the court. Don't turn it into some clickbait thing for your personal fame or to go viral. Now, Dawn Staley did answer the question very respectfully. She took a sip of water. She thought about it for a second, and she said that she did believe that trans women should be able to play in sports, and that is her opinion. And she even said, I know I'm going to get a ton of flack for this when I should be concentrating on coaching my players. So thank you for that. But, you know, there is a time and a place for that conversation to be had. It's an important conversation that shouldn't be had at a pregame press conference. Everybody feels differently about it. There's not a right answer, which is what makes it so challenging and so difficult. Now, what a lot of people can say is that, I don't know, there has to be a lot of parameters before trans athletes are allowed to compete. I know that there is testosterone testing, and it takes a very long time. It's not like a biological man can just decide tomorrow that he's trans and play in a game. That's not how it works. There's a lot that has to go through.
But most
before,
people believe that's how it works.
and most people believe that's how it works, and that's the problem. And that's not what happens. But on the flip side, there are things that naturally men have that women don't, and you know, in height, in weight, and things like that. Regardless of, especially at a college age, most humans have already gone through puberty at that point, and so it is hard. It's very challenging. It's a very touchy subject that a lot of people think is not, people don't want to talk about. You know, I am under the impression as a female that trans athletes don't make me any less female and don't make them any less female. I think that we can share in the community, in the world, and there's like it's like less than 1% of athletes are trans, so we are really talking about a very, very, very small collection of people, and it definitely is a bigger conversation that needs to happen. And I don't know what the right answer is, because I definitely understand both sides of it. I see it, I get it. You know, there aren't many. It's hard. It's very difficult. It's a very hard, sticky subject. But I think the important thing in this conversation is this journalist asking this question. And I actually didn't know before we were going to talk about this that Kylan had this on here. And this journalist was actually, I'm not going to say his name because I don't, that's what, regardless. But this journalist was actually going to be my he's not him, because again, I'm not saying he's wrong for asking the question. I'm saying it was an inappropriate time to ask the question. Again, for a male to ask that question in a female's Final Four, when there are no trans athletes competing, are no trans coaches coaching, let's celebrate the females that are there and performing in this historic Final Four. And then we can have this conversation after the season is over, because it is a conversation that needs to be had. And I think it's important to hear yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, when they ask that question again, how Dawn handled it, I think was amazing. She answered it super respectfully and kind of like put a period on the end of it and was like, this is how I feel. And she literally ended it with, I know I'm going to get slack for this. So like literally looked at the journalist and was like, thank you. And I should be coaching my team. He did ask it to other, coaches as well. He asked it to, I only saw the answer from the Iowa coach, but he didn't, Lisa Bueller, he didn't have a video of it because she declined to answer. She was like, I'm not talking about that right now. Like, that's irrelevant, which is true.
I'm assuming Gino didn't give him what he wanted either.
I wonder if he didn't ask Gino, actually, because that would be a really weird question to ask Gino, especially with Gino being a man. I feel like Gino, I also just wouldn't ask. I don't know. Gino probably would have freaked out if he asked him that question. Like, who do you think you are asking me that question right now? I don't know. I didn't see anything about Gino getting asked it. I only saw, so maybe it was before the championship game, because I only saw Lisa Bueller and John Ciely get asked it. But again, my thoughts are inappropriate time for the question. Huh?
He probably saved it for the women and not for Gino, because Gino's from Norristown, so I'm assuming he'd have the same answer, maybe in a less respectful way than that Dawn had. But yeah, so for those of you that don't know, so this question got asked by a person from Outkick. I had no idea, because we never know who's he's not him, she's not her, they aren't them until we do it. But I am of the mindset. So for those that don't know, let me give you a little quick history lesson here as to why this question is getting asked. So in my hometown, right, there was a swimmer at Penn who most of you have probably heard of, Leah Thomas, who was a former man before she transitioned into a woman and became Leah, and so it became a big culture war thing because of that, and because of the school she went to, Penn. Now, you have seen some people get really, really good fame off this, Riley Gaines being one of them. Now this is like Morgan said, a small percent of a small percent. I think like what is it, like 1 or 2% of the population is actually like athletes.
I think it's like one. Well, it might even be less than 1% of student athletes. Yes.
Yeah. So like, I was just saying, like, in the world as a whole, with college athletes being a part of this, there's only like 2% of people that I think it's like 2% of the population, or maybe even 1% of the population that actually like makes it to professionals. But you can include college athletes because we all consider college athletics to be professional anyway, whether the NCAA likes it or not. So 2% of the population as a whole are good enough to be athletes. So now we're talking about a small percentage of a small percent, right? And a lot of this is because of Lia Thomas and her success. Now, for those of you that don't know, Lia Thomas, she competed in the Ivy League, only got to like 5th place. Riley Gaines, who is a Fox News contributor, or as I like to call him, or as I like to call her, younger Tomi Lahren, was upset because she swam for the University of Florida. She competed against Lia, and she came in 11th place. Now I don't know how having 10 other swimmers outside of Lia Thomas way better than you gets you a Fox News contributor contract, but it did. so like you hear about this a lot, that like you hear about like how, and she was the main thing of this, and this is why a lot of people are like, oh my God, Lia Thomas took away this girl's chance. She was Miss Swim in Florida, blah 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 blah, and a lot of that is because of that. But I would like to tell you that she came in 11th at this meet. She also competed against a lot of current Olympians, and she didn't win. So like Lia Thomas didn't win. She didn't win. She wasn't. Both of them weren't in the top 3. And so when I hear about these trans athletes, I'm like, bro, again, I'm not a woman. This isn't going to take away from me. Obviously, as Morgan so eloquently put it, he had no business asking either one of these coaches this question, because there are no trans athletes on either one of these teams. There were no trans athletes in the college championship game. It was a pure form of basketball, and it would have been pure if there was somebody trans. I don't want nobody to think I'm saying something that I'm not saying here, right? But like, it's because of Lia Thomas. That's what all this is a reaction to. Lia Thomas, who is the most famous trans college swimmer. She didn't go to the Olympics. There was some rumors there that she might try out and stuff like that. So that's why this question got asked, because people use this as a niche issue. People think people are getting their stuff taken away. The people think they're getting their rights taken away because of this, and I'm just like, bro, like, this is a 1% of a 1%. If your kid is good enough, just because they swim in high school doesn't mean they'll get a college contract, and that's whether they're a normal man or woman, or a trans man or woman. Like, it isn't like just anybody can walk on and get a scholarship to play at South Carolina, UConn, or Iowa. Who am I forgetting? Or North Carolina State. Like, there was nobody. I'm not gonna walk on and be a UConn player. Morgan's not gonna walk on and join the UConn women's team. Like, that's a 1% of a 1%. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand that some of y'all use this as your niche issue and your point, but at some point we have to figure this out, because it's coming. Like, it is coming. So we're gonna have to figure this one out. And the dogs agree with me that it's a stupid question. Like, we're gonna have to figure this out. But I just think that RC asked today, asked Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey didn't make it to get this question asked. I'm sure I'm sure she would have had a crazy ass answer to it, RC. But yeah, like, it's crazy that like Dawn said, on the biggest night of her and her girl's career, that she had to worry about this. And so we need to figure it out. Like, these state high school institutions need to figure it out. The colleges need to figure it out. But for right now, it's not there. There was no trans athlete in the Final Four, no trans athlete in the championship game. And so they need to figure it out. And, they have the testing and everything. I think the testing is kind of flawed, because I know that they had some problems with some South African athletes who were pure women, but they just had extra testosterone just because that was their You know, that was what God gave him, right? And I know that they said this about Michael Phelps, that he had some kind of evolution where he was getting like, I don't know if you heard about this, Morgan, but he was getting like extra height. I think he had a higher like Achilles heel or something than most swimmers. And so that allowed him to get better push off and allowed him to win more gold medals than anybody else. And so, I mean, this is a slippery slope, right? Because if you start testing for this hormone stuff, you're then eliminating, you know, regular women who have extra testosterone because of their parents and stuff. It's nothing that they did or whatever.
Exactly.
So the testing is kind of flawed. So we get into a slippery slope here, and this is why this is such a
hard conversation that there isn't a right answer for.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah, and so on top of that,
here is this was Kylan's weekend, so I'm going to let him take this away, and then we will get into, I believe, he's not him, she's not her, yes?
Yes. Yeah, and so I will be real quick. This was a great show. Like I said last week, great showing for Philadelphia. Really enjoyed it. Met people from Australia, met some Jamaicans, and a lot of wrestling fans are just great people. It was a great time. I got to see Cody Rhodes finish the story. Roman Reigns and The Rock. Like, actually got to see The Rock in person. Like, much more massive than a lot of people give that man credit for. Roman Reigns as well. You know, it was a great experience to do 5 days. I was telling Morgan off air, I literally just got my voice back for 5 days of yelling. I was at Lincoln Financial Field. It was a great showing for the city. Great showing. I think a lot of people had fun. I hope they will come back. I hope it doesn't take them 25 years to get back. But it was a great showing, and I really loved being there, being there, and you know, just being a part of it. RC, man. Again, y'all need to get in this comment section. You'll get a shout out on the show. He was talking about. Sorry, that's the wrong comment.
That's the wrong one.
He was talking about, under like that match at the end was so wild, bro. I don't know. Did you see my meme that I shared? You got the Undertaker, like people ordering cheesesteaks and Philadelphians. Yeah, it really was wild, RC. Like, it was a lot going on there. Like, we started a Gatorade chant, a water chant. It was a wild time at WrestleMania. And like I said, seeing Cody finish the story, seeing Undertaker come out of nowhere and, you know, end the story or help the story finish. Like, it was a great time. Great time had by all.
That's awesome.
Really enjoyed it. You know, like I said, I probably should have had Morgan write some articles for WatsonSports6.com about all the basketball she was watching, because she was more of a basketball reporter this weekend than I was, because I was
so much basketball.
More of a WrestleMania reporter. But it was
like
a great
I said,
time.
I'm still recovering. I'm so tired still.
It was a great time. Yeah. I'm sure it was a wild weekend in Connecticut. But sorry, wrong graph. But yeah, now it's time to get He's Not Him, She's Not Her, and They Aren't Them, y'all's favorite segment. Morgan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So my He's Not Him is the reporter. We just talked about him. My She's Not Her. So it's more of a They Aren't Them, but it's like they aren't. It's kind of these combined. And I want to start this out by, I see both sides of this. There's a lot of current female WNBA players that are crapping on a lot of the draft prospects, probably specifically more Caitlin Clark. I totally understand that their frustration that they, like Breanna Stewart, like she probably feels like if she was in the league at UConn right now and winning the championships like she was winning right now, they would be getting coverage like Caitlin Clark was, and she would be the Caitlin Clark. There's probably a little bit of jealousy, but I wish that, and I guess it's a double-edged sword. I wish people would stop asking current WNBA players questions that they know are going to put them in a bad situation and make them say bad things about current players. But I just wish we could all, and this sounds like so dorky, I wish we could all just like get along and be happy and like be proud of like the support that women are having and like not be catty. But I think journalists are putting female athletes in positions to talk bad about each other. And it seems like women do it more than men. As a female, it just seems like female athletes are doing it more than male athletes do. And I just wish that we could stop. And hopefully maybe next week, once the draft is over, it calms it down a little bit.
All right. So my he's not him. This is more of a funny he's not him than anything else. And I hate doing it to him because I do love him. He's one of my journalism heroes. But Stephen A. Smith, man.
Oh no.
How do you not know that Quentin Grimes isn't on the Knicks anymore, bro? And you have an MVP vote. I am of the mindset that I am not saying that you need to know everything. Stephen A. Smith, he's a busy man. He's got a contract extension coming up. But you got to know the basics, man. Quentin Grimes doesn't play on the team anymore. And, obviously you've got an MVP vote. I hope to one day, I think Morgan does too, to have an MVP vote at both NBA and NFL votes. So I am of the mindset that, you got to know something. That's why you got researchers, that's why all these big companies and journalists have researchers to help them out. As you've seen on this show, when we don't know nothing, we hit Google very hard to find it. So it is one of those things where you just need to know that. And, I will give Stephen A. some mercy, but you gotta know that, man, especially for somebody who claims to be a Knicks fan who's on the team currently. You gotta know that. My other one, they aren't them. We kind of got into it. Is the college sports purists. I saw, because people were commenting on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and a couple of other players like Haley Van Lith and others who are leaving their respective schools, and they're all like, man, the transfer portal is ruining the game, and so is NIL. I'm all like, ruining the game? Y'all wasn't saying that when everybody and their mom was leaving whatever school they were going to coach the other school for the upgrade. Nobody was saying anything. Now, because these kids are empowered now, people are like, man, it's ruining the game, man. So one of the kids that transferred from Kansas, I don't know if this is true or not, wanted like $1 billion in NIL. Kansas couldn't give it to him. That's their fault. That's what it is, man. Like I said, we have always said, both of us went to college. It's all about the money, right? If you get a better scholarship from somewhere else, whether it's a fit or not, go there, right? It's always been about the money. I don't know why we act like it's a new thing that it's about the money, but it's about the money. It's always been about the money. So my they aren't them to the college sports purists. I don't really have a she's not her, so I'm gonna do a she is her to Dawn Staley. Dawn Staley, my former Philadelphian sister. You never leave. You may leave Philly, but the Philly never leaves you, man. Oh my goodness. It was so great to see her see her win those 3 championships, be one of the first Black coach to win 3 championships in her career. More power to you. She is her to Dawn Staley. We know you're going to be back. We know you're going to keep it coming.
And the classiest of ladies, too. Afterwards, thanking Caitlin Clark for all that she's done for college women's basketball is incredible and amazing.
Yeah. And, she's a great person, great player. She is her to her. And, shout out to Iowa. RC just brought it up. So shout out to Iowa, too. We didn't get into this, for retiring Caitlin Clark's jersey, just because, and I'm of the mindset that, especially in college, that if somebody does something that will probably never be repeated ever, then you need to retire that number, especially if they stay for 4 years. So she is her to and they are them to Iowa and Caitlin Clark for doing this. And like I said, man, my she is her to Dawn Staley. Great time, great game. Great national title game, great back and forth, great showing for women's sports.
Yeah.
Really, really good showing all around. Good job, guys. Really good, really good. 18.7 million got to see that. And what a great showing for women's sports and the WNBA and everything else. Good job. What a great showing of basketball had by all.
And
all right. And so we'll hit our final thoughts.
That's all we got for you. We have a crazy week coming up with the WNBA draft, the Masters. We will touch on all of that next week. Getting closer to the NBA playoffs, so we'll keep an eye on that run. Remember to give us a follow on social. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It helps us out, and it helps us know what you guys want us to talk about. So we are so thankful for all of you, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Yeah, show
Thanks,
was fire.
RC.
Thanks, RC.
Doesn't want to end.